included in the subdivision. That was platted out as road right of way, right from the beginning.
Well, I concur that it was a deeded right of way on private.
And then another question I have, there's been another subdivision put in since Elkhorn, and the commissioners okayed that subdivision, so that right of way would have been okayed back then also. So the right of ways have been protected, I mean, all along, it's always been there. Part of it was purchased by the power company, so that's been there for a long time. So all these years, I never figured out where the discrepancy was. We just want to make sure we don't run into what we did earlier this spring, where we go to turn in our road, and here is crates and everything else blocking our road, saying we can't go up there no more. And they, here a couple of years ago, they hauled in a bunch of dirt and piled it next to their road by the drive, what is in the right of way. No matter who you decide the right of way is, it's still in the right of way. There's still a pallet there with still a sign saying private road, no trespassing. I just wanna see it done,
No,
one way or another.
And as a property owner, I would like this resolved too, because again, we have been pushing this back and forth since early 2000, when County Attorney Mr. Flynn was brought into this, and Steve McCullough and Jim Hone were commissioners, and the question was raised then of whether this was a public / county / private road. The question that needs to be resolved is because the landowners that are paying taxes on the entire stretch of this road, it's not the typical easement that's 30 and 30, it's the entirety. And myself, back in 17, or not 17, but in the first round of this, or since I've been involved, you know, I made the comment, let's do this right, follow due process, and I'll donate my section of my fee title property to the cause. And the county commissioners at that time asked for a legal opinion on how they could best proceed. And because there was at that time, as Terry can attest, one landowner on the road who did not want to play, did not want anything to do with it. So at that time, Mr. Flynn advised the commission that there was only one way to move forward in his legal opinion, which for whatever reason was not recorded, but his opinion was that there would have to be a process initiated by the county to make the follow due process, giving those landowners that are on that particular stretch of property the right to be represented, etc. The county at the time said, we don't want to get into it, and it was dropped. Now we're back again because of what the one neighbor chose to say. It's not only private, but has the right to block it. I'm hoping that we can resolve this, but at the same token, the other landowners that are on the right-of-way are looking for fairness as well, including myself. I mean, we need to be fair across the board so that everybody that uses that road can have equity and ownership of it, if you will, because right now, this county cannot come in and enforce a speed limit. The county is not authorized to maintain the road. The petition that tried to get that to happen fell apart. So I have been maintaining the road for the last, I don't know how many years, but I can't continue doing that out of my pocket, and I won't. And I've told people I'm not going to do that no more. It's not my job to maintain the road for everybody else to drive 70 miles an hour on, and I won't do it. Now, is that selfish on my part? So be it. But I want this done, and I want it done sooner rather than later, but I want it done right. If it's not done right, then I withdraw my offer to give the public domain, if you will, my property. I withdraw that. Come and take it. And I'm a little bitter about this because, again, we have been down this road so many times and without any resolution. And I'm pictured as the bad guy trying to get due process in place to take care of it once and for all. Now, am I whining about it? Yeah, I am. I'm tired of coming down here taking my time out. I got neighbors that want it resolved, not counting the one that's refusing to talk to us. How many legal opinions do we need on the road before we can resolve this? That's my final question. We got records from 1912, clear through to present day, including police reports, including commissioner meeting minutes, referencing need to resolve this.
Well, upshot of this, I could run through all the
Excuse me, Cory,
documents.
before you go, one more point I'd like to make.
All right,
And I think this is really important because this adds to the problem that I have as a property owner. When I got up one day here, within the last year and a half, and I got dump trucks going up and down across my property. Again, I've been maintaining the road, and everybody knows dirt roads that are not completely treated and have any surface material get beat up pretty fast with heavy equipment. We got a Taj Mahal parking lot that actually has turned into a campground this last hunting season. And when I called Rick at BLM and requested a clarification on his right-of-way that he's using, because this is almost a similar situation where you have fee title land going to fee title land and easements recorded for that purpose, and then at a later date you have BLM, or in this case it was Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, came in and bought fee title land and made that the public domain. So I asked, simple question, what is your recorded legal access to this new parking lot? And his response in writing was, I talked to people at Broadwater County officials and they told me it is so. Now, if I went and I asked you if I can have an easement across your property to go to the field on the other side for hunting purposes, and that road is existing there for public domain, do I just automatically assume that that's a legal access for public? I don't think so. I don't think anybody in this room would agree going through their yard without having at least the documentation. So this brings me back to the right question of, I would love to resolve this, but it must be resolved with due process and done the right way. Thank you.
well, I don't know who they talked to. They didn't talk to me, but who were the officials?
Well, I don't know who they talked to either, but I got the letter if you'd like it. It's very, very vague as far as, I talked to officials at the
Sure.
local level and they said
Okay.
basically what my response was.
So the issue here, everyone that's got property at that point going west has an easement. Has an easement recorded in their deeds that are all basically sub parts of the original access easement that was there. So the first thing I would say that's crystal clear is that the property owner at the front end of this can't restrict access on really anybody coming through there, because if they're coming through there, you might be a property owner 3 generations later that lived there. You might be a guest of them. You might be the delivery guy. Whoever it is would be covered under their easement. That it's them, their heirs, their successors, their assigns, their invitees, their people that are carrying on business with them. So the first thing I would say is it's crystal clear, nobody can be putting up a roadblock and checking cars or something coming off of the highway onto White Horse Road.
Right.
The second thing is, what all these documents show is that that Cooper and Burgess Ranch that then became, that was what was acquired by Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, as I
Yes.
understand, is that right?
But the title, sorry.
Go ahead.
Is listed as the conservation fund.
Okay, Conservation Fund. But either way, they acquired the easement that Cooper and Burgess had that was granted to them by Nagels. So there was not limiting language in any of these easements that said you're limited to 5 people or trucks of a certain size or that kind of a thing. So the problem with that is if you don't put that kind of limiting language in, and when you establish an easement, the only limiting language says do not interfere with the rights of the grantors, meaning the Nagels, to enjoy their property. Well, I haven't seen anything that's interfered with their enjoyment of their property. That easement happens to run, as I said, on the 60 feet north of the property line. So it is an easement that's wider than your average easement of burdening someone's property. But they knew that way back in 1979 or earlier. So the last question is, did the fact that then the BLM acquired that land from the Conservation Fund or Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, did that somehow, what are the limits on BLM's ability to access it or to have the public access it? I don't see anything in any document that would support an argument that basically anyone that wants to go on BLM land would somehow be violating a right by doing that. Because they're enjoying an easement that BLM owns, that they acquired, even if it was through 3 different transactions, originally from the grantor of the easement, which is Grant and Laura Nagel.
Question?
So, you're still my thunder, Tim. I'm on a roll, and then go ahead.
And that's one of the documents that I've looked for since I've been involved in this and since we talked about the Burgess Cooper purchase and then the subsequent change going to basically BLM is once those easements are transferred from that private access, which are the original documents that I have in my record show the private access to the White Horse Ranch, which is basically the Black Diamond property, clear up at the foothills of the mountain. That once that changes from that fee title agreement of easement, and I'm looking for clarification, to a public domain, which the conservation easement slash Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation slash turned over to federal government BLM. My question remains, at what point in time does that private agreement transfer over to public domain? Because I've never been able to find that process in my research to show that. We can assume that it is automatic, but when you go from private to private, like we have a private subdivision, has a recorded easement, and that's perfectly within legitimate standards of state law. We have perfectly access to, like you said, neighbors, friends, whatever purpose, no reason to infringe on those uses of that easement. But once it gets transferred over to a public domain, then that throws in a whole different set of rules in my mind, but maybe I'm wrong, correct?
But they had the right to acquire the property. The BLM or whoever had the right to acquire the property. And there's no limitation in that original easement or anything since that limited it to, say, the number of people that would be able to use that road to access that property. So if BLM acquires it fully within their rights to a legitimate transaction, and then who's to say which member of the public can go and which member of the public can't go? I don't think we need to go to the question of did that translate that into a public road. What it did is it gave BLM with all of its people that are permitted to use BLM land, an access easement down that road that anyone that's enjoying BLM land lawfully can use that road to get to it. So the question of whether that translated into a public road is really an unnecessary question. The question is, can someone lawfully use that road to access BLM land to enjoy BLM land? Yes. They can, that's crystal clear chain of title.
Respectfully, I think it's a very important question as far as whether it's still a private road or if it's been transferred to a public road, because that changes the parameters of jurisdiction as well as who's responsible for taking care of the road. I reference you to the road going out to Goose Bay Marina. We had that battle for several years over.
But in this one, all of, it's
Apple
not,
oranges,
but it's not unclear as to who's responsible for maintaining it. Because that's the other thing that's in all these easements, is that the people that acquire that easement collectively are responsible for maintaining the road. That's in all these documents. So the people that are responsible for it are everyone that lives on that road that has a piece of that pie. And unless you guys all want to petition the county to make it a county road and then the county maintains it, what these documents all say is all of you collectively need to pitch in to maintain it. Every one of these documents says that.
Okay,
Okay,
I'm done, thank you.
we can do that petition later. We want to determine today, public, private. Tim, would you bought your property, if you would have thought Nagel could claim that was private and shut you off anytime they want? Be truthful. You know you wouldn't have bought it. You figured when you bought that property, you had a legal right of way to your property.
He has it, it's right
And
here.
again, we-
And
It's,
we do.
And
It's-
we went back through that when we bought the property, and we got challenged with that right away when I bought my property. And at that time, Mr. Pat Hooks done research with Glenn Kinney, with the title insurance company, and my title insurance was approved, showing that I have my right of way. Certainly I made sure I had access to my property.
That's 24, gonna be 25 when the other family gets done. 25 families have the same right.
yeah, every one of them. Ravendall, right here, book 37, page 913. That's the recorded his easement. Everyone that's in Elkhorn subdivision, book 60, page 116. That is your record, the date, the page you can go and get your recorded easement.
All right.
Okay?
So everything there, this whoever did this document did a good job. Every easement is recorded right here, and they all come out of originally the 60-foot easement to White Horse Ranch, book 31, page 954, and they also overlay, which we talked about earlier, an earlier easement from 1912,
Right.
which covers that, and then anybody that's an heir to Cooper and Burgess, book 31, page 407, is their easement that gave them the right to transfer it to anyone that's a successor in interest. So I honestly don't, I mean, the only thing I could do maybe to benefit this process is lay out a more detailed memo, but I mean, all these guys who know property law better than I do, they all said that there's no way you're gonna win a fight saying this is a private road. Now, that's the question. Maybe it is a private road, but it's privately owned by, what, how many, 25 families, is that what you're saying? And there's no way you can restrict somebody from coming on there to enjoy that property. Now, if there was a real extreme example, what would be a really extreme example? I don't know what it'd be. It would have to be something that interferes with someone's property on that. Like say one of those, you know, those super wide loads where they have to shut down the highway and they have to take it apart and they have to travel at night, and to where they're tearing down your fence and your trees to build something on the far end. That's one where I think all these guys could say, you're interfering with our enjoyment of our property rights. But that is normal travel. I don't see a way to, I don't think anyone that tries to curtail travel on that has a leg to stand on. The next question is if you guys want to, I shouldn't say you, if you guys want to make it a county road, then if everybody agrees but one person, and the county can reject it, or the county can go through the eminent domain process to acquire that property, but that's gonna cost
And I
money.
think that's the process that was being approached with the petition that Terry started back with Mr. Flynn here, and Mr. Flynn gave that same exact legal opinion.
Because Nagels didn't sign it, correct? Were they the only ones that held out at that time?
They're the only ones.
So, and then,
And it was approved.
say
I
again?
had it approved. They even, if you check with Bob Mazzola,
Okay.
Bob met with me, had me follow him down to Rocky Mountain Supply. He showed us just what culvert we had to purchase. We couldn't put it in. Bob said they'd put it in because they wanted it at a certain height. And so we went ahead and purchased the culvert. He come and put it in. They even brought a lift of gravel from Graymont and put it in and graded it. And then he said, now drive on it through the winter, and then in the spring, we'll bring another lift, and we'll take care of it from there.
Well, wasn't that
In the
the,
meantime, that's when things went downhill, and they said my, what do you call that thing I went and got?
Petition,
The
the petition.
petition, then they said, well, your petition's not right. They approved it, but then when they got into trouble, they said it's no good. You got it.
now, didn't you guys do a request for a maintenance agreement? with
That
the
was
county?
first, and that's what I
Yeah, we
saw.
asked.
That was before the petition on making the county
It was
road.
basically the same petition, was
Same time.
assumed
Yeah.
to move forward under the same petition. I signed a petition to take over maintenance and control of the road by the county, and that's when it got changed over through negotiations with, I think, Terry and the county commissioners at the time, and it changed over to the county actually taking over ownership of the road. That's when the process of buying culverts, making encroachment, purchase easements, encroachments on the road, placing culverts, and the road was then
Okay.
recalled into question.
So I guess that's where it is. I think it's crystal clear that they can't, that she can't interfere with anyone using the road, including BLM and people that want to use BLM land. If they want to go the next step of a county road, I think it's up to them to gather the approval of the landowners. Because otherwise, the county has to be willing to pay for an easement across Nagel's property, a public easement, or go through the fight of saying it was a prescriptive easement, which we could do. And I think we'd win a case saying that a prescriptive public easement was established.
And I think you could easily prove that, but
The
again,
question is it necessary?
due process.
Is it necessary to do it? I don't see any way she can legally restrict access on that road.
And I have never been part of that program.
Cory, may I ask some questions?
Yeah.
So, are you then making a declaration for us and the folks who live on this road that this is a public road? You've said it's not private, because the reason for my question is, you're advising Terry that he can go ahead and pursue the process to have this made a county road, but he can't do that unless this is a public
It
road.
has to be public first.
Right,
No.
so we're skipping a step here, so what I'm looking for is something definitive for Terry.
No, I'm not, it's not necessary that it be a public road. What it be is, everyone that has a property interest along that road would consent to it becoming a public road where they basically would donate. There's two options. Let's say it's private property and they want to all donate an easement, public easement for it to be a county road. That would be option one. Option two is that we go ahead and prove that it's a public road first, and then declare it a county road. The only way to declare officially that it's a public road, for it to not be subject to further fighting, is that you have to have a judge do it, okay? We can declare it a public road and we can make it a county road, meaning the commission. And then someone can challenge it and say, no, it's private. And then that's fine, we just have to win that battle in court. That'd be the same if it was a prescriptive easement. Only a judge can declare something by a ruling on the merits, declare that a prescriptive easement has been established. We can we could move along that way, but it does ultimately require a court filing for that to happen. The easy way to do it is that everyone consents to it and says, yes, we consent that this needs to be a county road, and if there's any question, we agree to donate our easement across our property in order for it to be a county road. That's what I'm
That
suggesting.
doesn't, that, Nicole, if you could help me understand, I'm sorry, Tim, if I'm speaking, but if you'd like to interrupt, would you like to
do
speak?
that, you know that.
You done? Nicole, we have a number of subdivisions, and I'm gonna speak about the one around the golf course. So we've got a property line for the road that's on one side, and so one side of the residents pay the taxes on that road. If that community came forward and said, this is a public road, we would like to make it a county road, there would not be any requirement to take over that easement. We would simply make it a county road, and then the county would adopt it as part of our road list, correct?
So boundaries wouldn't change.
Okay,
The easement is just this invisible, you'll still own the property. I live in town, I owned the center line of South Spruce Street. I don't get to block it off, I get to pay taxes on it, I get to mow my boulevard and make sure my sidewalk is maintained, but I can't fence it off. So I look at it the same way. But the city and all of the residents in the city still have access to my property that I'm paying taxes on. So what would happen in my mind, and and how we've done this before, is that you folks that live out there would petition the county to make it a county road. There's a consenting and dissenting box. So everyone that lives out there has to sign one of those boxes. I'm sure there are extenuating circumstances if someone just absolutely flat refuses to sign. Then it would come here and the commission would adapt for it to become a county road or not, but no boundary lines would change. So then it would just get added to their maintenance list, and then also for our gas tax. Did that answer your question?
it did, so we don't need to be looking at any kind of an eminent domain issue with any one of our subdivisions or White Horse Road,
No.
should citizens decide they wanna make it a county road, or
Correct.
petition us. And request
Petition the
that.
commissioners to make it a county road. And if there are dissenting, that doesn't mean that you pull the eminent domain card necessarily. You simply say, I'm sorry, majority wins, this is our ruling. That's how we've done it in the past for roads to become county roads. Or to not become county roads, because you have had roads come to you petition to be county roads, that you simply, you don't have the numbers there, either monetarily or people.
The problem with
So
that,
another
though,
question I have for Nicole is, so are there three types of roads then? Private, neither private nor public, or public?
The way I look at it, so there's private roads, there are privately maintained public roads, and there are county roads. County roads being public and publicly maintained, as in by the county road department, or someone that they contract with. So privately maintained public, and public.
And so you'd have to have
Or
a
county,
road
sorry, I
that's
should say.
privately maintained public
Mhm.
for a group of folks to come forward and say, hey, we'd like the county to take this as a county road, correct?
I can't speak to that. I don't know if it could be a private road, that they come in and say, hey, we really want this to be a county road. We want you to open it to the public and maintain it. I don't know if that step has to happen.
Okay.
Or, I don't know why they couldn't. Why couldn't a private, or landowners on a private road, why couldn't they come to the county and say, we, for the benefit of the people of the county, we want it open to them, and we want the county to maintain it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Tim?
I think in similarly, Commissioner Obert's question is in a way answered, because we have the roads in the Silo subdivision, which are privately maintained under the county contractual process, so that
That's not
can
true.
be part of the
That's not true.
process.
The Silos subdivision roads are county and RID roads.
Road Improvement District, so that's another, I guess that's what I was trying to do.
But they are not privately maintained public. They are publicly maintained public.
Okay.
the problem is this, that we can do all that, Commissioner Obert. However, Nagel would have the opportunity to then challenge us in court and say, no, this is a private road, you can't declare it a county road, you're taking my property rights. We would still have to win that court fight. They would have standing to challenge our declaration of a county road unless they consented or we condemned and paid them for the value of the easement. That's what I'm trying to convey to you. We can proceed, but a dissenting landowner has a legal right to challenge that declaration of a county road in court if they wish to.
Even if it's done by petition?
Yeah.
That's because anybody can sue for anything, correct?
It's America.
We need to put
America.
that on a bumper sticker.
Right, but
If
good
it left
luck
it as a
finding
public
it.
access road,
So the difference is that under subdivision regulations now, that there were requirements on roads, there are requirements on roads now that didn't exist in '94. Is that accurate?
That is correct.
So tell us that difference.
Well, now a subdivider would have to prove that they have open public access, whether that's privately maintained public access or county road access, that's of no consequence to the to the planning board. But it would have to be known that it's a public road, and they have to prove that's included documentation that's required in the subdivision application.
Or if they subdivide it, they would declare those.
Right,
would-
correct, if they own all of that land, yes. So all subdivision roads are, I can't even say the date on camera, but, because I don't know. But with our new regulations, and in fact with our 2006 regulations, so at least back to 2006, all subdivision roads are privately maintained public roads, unless this commission has chosen, or any commission has chosen to adopt them as county roads.
what was left like it is now is a public access road. Can they still come back and,
Well, I don't think they could, and I think we could, there's three different ways. First of all, you've got that public utility easement from way back, right?
right?
That's very public in nature, but that was also done prior to the creation of the Montana Power Company and the Public Service Commission and all that stuff. So the point is you just have to spend some time building that legal argument. Second, the way these easements were done, everybody kind of farther down the tree has access, and that there's really no practical way for them to try and discriminate as to who can go, who can't go based on someone enjoying an easement that they originally granted. And then third, the fact that an entity at the end of that road lawfully acquired an easement for any member of the public to be able to come to the BLM parking lot and use that BLM road. I think those are your reasons why you say this is clearly a road that's accessible to anyone in the public.
Now, under the prescriptive easement,
Well, fourth would be prescriptive easement, yeah.
yeah, can it be limited on a prescriptive easement that just the people that live there could go through or anything like that? Or is it prescriptive easement same as public use then, isn't it?
Well, nobody that lives there would have a prescriptive easement because they already have an easement in their document.
Oh.
And that's rules. The prescriptive easement is in the absence of any other lawful
Oh, yeah,
property right or
right.
permission. So you'd be looking for other members of the public who aren't there under the color of some right to access that road. So the prescriptive easement's a little bit messy just because I think it's hard to figure out who would have openly and notoriously and adversely used that road that's not already in one of those other buckets of lawfully there by means of an easement. So really what I think you have is you have a really wide, what started as a private easement and over years has become a very wide open easement to nearly the whole world, but it's all done under the context of enjoying an easement that was originally granted by the Nagels, the ones that are potentially objecting. So.
Terry?
So, now I know that Rob and Paul and the guy that started H&L Drilling, the people up there in the log home, been using that road since late 70s, early 80s. How does that factor in? That's way before all this other.
But what I go back to,
In order for a subdivision to be approved, it has to have legal access. No private, no nothing, just has to have a legal access. Bill Best got that approval way back when. And then since then, Campbell's did a subdivision, minor, and that got approved. So that eliminates private. It was never private, it's public, in my eyes. Maybe my eyes are looking wrong, but.
Well, I don't know where those other folks are that were accessing it for logging. So there's another layer of complexity here I skipped, but there were county roads in the, not here, but there was a county road that was here, and there was a county road that kind of paralleled this highway, which was off a little bit, which was ultimately abandoned. But there was a county road and there was a right-of-way that Foster's granted, which I believe might be right down this section line, which isn't currently used. But there is an old history of other roads accessing that property, not just on the White Horse Road piece. So it's possible that somebody back in the day was using one of those roads as well. Or it's possible that people have been using that road prior to it becoming surveyed. You know, like this 79 deal, for all we know, they were surveying an existing route. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what do you suggest then? The step we do to get this thing going and get it done?
Well, what I've been trying to do for a couple of months now is to sit down with Laura Nagel and basically go through all of this and explain it to her, and I'd still like to do that. We just haven't been able to connect and make it happen. And what I would tell her is, you can't win the fight that this is a private road, and you ought to get some help on maintenance by agreeing with your neighbors to ask for it to be a county road. If that's what you guys want to do. I mean, I'm not out here volunteering extra county roads. If you guys don't want to do that,
We
that's
want it to
fine.
become a county road. Because just like that one winter that it was so bad, Vanden Acre had his tractor out there, Tim had his grader out there, got stuck many times trying to get it open so that we could get out and even go to work. We don't have the equipment that the county has in an emergency situation.
Right.
So our whole goal, my goal is, has always been to, because even Dana said, what little bit of time it would take to go from the highway up to the railroad tracks and back is nothing, because they go by there all the time anyway.
Right.
So the cost factor wouldn't be that bad. We would just like to see it maintained once in a while, nothing
Sure.
fancy. You know, just having the safety of knowing we get a blizzard again, there's a piece of equipment that can get in there and get us out. And the only way we can do that is to get it to become a county road.
My issue too with this road over others, it sets it apart in my opinion, is that the previous commission, along with county attorney and the road crew, worked with you folks and said, you know what, we'll go ahead and enter into this agreement with you and take the steps to make this a county road if you buy these culverts. And it seems to me that there's a question here that agreement was upheld by you and your neighbors and not upheld by the county commission. And I think we're obligated to make it right. So that's,
Yes, then.
I think that's only the correct way to go.
Just one follow-up, Nicole brought up a good point in that I think needs to be, make sure we get it, I guess, straight, everybody's process here, is in 1980 or 79, or consequently in the early 90s, when this land and this private property was being subdivided and easements were being recorded with those properties. Those requirements at that time, and as you said, are different than whatever the date is when subdivision rules changed in 2006 or whatever. So I come back to my question that comes back to that public domain issue, which is if there's a new landowner exchange, and we can call the conservation easement a subdivision, if you will, but under the Montana law, when I asked for that recorded easement and or whatever with that, I have not seen that, and I guess I asked Corey, in your research, have you come across the easement recorded with that land exchange? Because, again, I haven't seen that.
So of which land exchange?
Pardon?
Which land exchange?
When the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Conservation Easement, et cetera, bought the Burgess Cooper property and then made that all into the conservation.
I gave that to you.
I think it's in the stack we gave you
in the
today, yeah.
packet there.
It's book 86, page 637. It's the transaction between Mac Butler, because Dewey Cooper and Ron Burgess actually sold the property to Mac Butler.
Max Butler was
Mac
the next
Butler
one.
sold it to the Conservation Fund, which is also Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. The Conservation Fund then sold it to the USA, BLM. So the document that you have, book 86, page 637, does reference that. 60-foot easement.
So Corey, we
Okay.
kind of have our marching orders, or at least Terry does, because you said, and I respect that you wanted to talk with Nagels, but what you said is they can't win a fight that this is a private road. So that pretty much says this is a privately maintained public road, correct, for Terry to take to his neighbors and complete the process a previous commission started a long time ago?
But if we say it's private,
Privately maintained public road.
oh, yes, I see what you mean, so it is a public road, privately maintained right now. Okay, yes, right.
Correct. And are you good with that?
No.
Terry again.
Good.
I know for a fact, when we got into trouble before or started arguing with Nagels, they went to two different attorneys. Both attorneys turned them down, because they said they'd lose in court, hands down. If we have to go to court, we can go to court. I was hoping it would never have to go there, and we could get it taken care of without having to do that. So that's my stance. If you guys tell me we gotta go to court, well, let me know and I'll get going. I'm hoping we don't have to do that.
Corey.
Because I already got a quote what it's gonna cost me. It's gonna cost me $10,000, and they'll take care of it. And
It's-
I'm willing to go get a loan and do it, so we don't have to argue no more. And I'm hoping we can get this thing done, like Tim says, here, now, or in the near future, that I don't have to do that. And I think we can. I'm hoping we can get it done without doing that.
I don't see it as a road owned by a public entity. I see it as a road owned by a whole lot of private people that's so open that it's open to the world. So it's public in nature, but it's privately owned. And so what that comes down to is, yeah, we could win the court fight. What I'd like to do is still an opportunity to not have a court fight. And that's what and I'm not kidding. We have been trying, Nicole especially, has been trying mightily to just set up a meeting, and I think we can do it. Just have to track her down at the school, I think. But
Well, I'm willing to go whatever route you recommend. I mean, that's why I'm here.
yeah,
If you just tell us what route you wanna go and what we wanna do to get this thing completed. Cause I'm thinking the commissioners are kinda in agreement that they wouldn't mind maintaining it if we can get it there.
so we're basically talking less than 2 miles of road. Is that accurate?
It's not even a mile to Elkhorn Road. It's just a little.
To the
over a
railroad
mile.
tracks is right at a mile,
Right at a mile.
give or take a
Off the
couple
highway.
of feet.
Yeah.
And then you got one more resident that lives up beyond there, which is really not totally part of White Horse Road, because that's a separate private road easement. Which throws in another, I haven't not been able to talk to them people on this latest round, but they have interest in it as well.
Yeah, they use it every
And
day.
their only
And again-
access is the White Horse Road.
The statement that White Horse Road is public or private, I think I agree with Corey that until we go through the process to make sure that we have everybody on the same page, that it is a public, private maintained, that would be one step. But to just jump over that step and call private road a public, privately maintained, is missing a step of due process. And that's what I've been observing as this thing has unfolded since the last commission and Bob Davis and Dana and McCullough and et cetera, all those folks that were at the table back then. You know, we went from, it's private, yep, okay, well now it's public. And no, it's county. No, we can't make sure whether it's public or county, but it's no longer private. And that's when I got my feathers ruffled, if you will, is because I'm logging over by Avon, and my wife calls me and says she can't get home because the road's got a ditch across it to my driveway. And I'm going, what's going on? Rich Thompson was sheriff. I called the sheriff. I said, what's going on? I had not signed any agreement to turn my stuff over, and next thing I got is a mail that I'm going to be charged violation of county standards of road if my culvert is not in and I do not abide by these county standard rules.
Well, but
That's a
But
part
I'm-
of the history here that
but-
needs to be considered.
But here's the other thing, you guys gotta go back and read this approval from 1979. All barrel pits off the main road will be contoured to lots. Approval and acceptance of the road subject to installation of 18-inch culverts by the landowners, 18-foot long. Culverts installed in any drainage shall be of quality equivalent to the railroad culverts. And so, I mean, you guys,
We've been in violation since '79.
every single lot, that was a subject, that was a condition of the approval of the subdivision. Now, is that just the Elkhorn? That's just the portion coming off
You
north?
purchased your property from, owns the carpet?
Cabriolio.
Cabriolio.
Cabriolio?
Yeah.
But.
So
the
that's
issue
just
is
as to
someone else.
that small,
Yeah,
chunk.
just that,
you're good.
north-south.
Do whatever you want. It's free.
I
Free
thought I was
market.
in trouble for violating since early times, but no, I understand what you're saying. And I want to do it right and I want to be playing by the rules, but I don't, again, I please ask for this due process. That's all I'm
So
asking.
Tim, are you against Terry going around and asking people?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I never said that.
No, I'm just trying to clarify because it sounds to me like you're thinking something else needs to be done before Terry can do that.
Well,
I'm
the
just
petition, I
asking.
think that Corey is suggesting is that the landowners on the ground agree to moving this from a private maintained road to a public, privately maintained road, or take that next step to make it a county maintained private road, or make the next step to make it a county maintained road. I mean, you got some options there to go forward to make it public entity, but that process has to be followed, if I understand correctly, and that's what I'm looking for. And if we have one landowner that is not in agreement to making that happen, Corey clearly described, as well as John Flynn clearly described, that requires a court battle to say, you know, the majority rules, if you will, in this case where the fee title landowners all come together and want this petition to move forward. It has to be settled in a due process.
Okay, so Corey, a question for you. Since he has brought up all these levels, where does Terry go with putting together something, I'm assuming with your help in formulating the question or the process that he's going to go around and ask people for?
What I would recommend you guys do, if you wanna do this, is get a petition per county road and just go to everybody that's on that road and ask them to sign yes or no. And either say, we believe it's a public road, or if it's not a public road, we agree to donate an easement as appropriate. And I'm gonna sit down with Laura Nagel, some way, by hook or crook, I'm gonna connect with her. I'm gonna sit down and go through all these documents with her and convince her that if she says no on it, that we'll have to go to court and we'll win, but it'll be a court battle. But that's what I think is pretty well the obvious course of action here.
That's what I would think too.
I've got one last question. In your file there, Corey, do you have a copy of that petition that Terry
Yeah.
circulated? I just wanted to show you something if I could in relation to that last effort, which when, I think.
No, I know,
opened up there not
I
too
saw
long
the
ago.
deal where everybody was on, and then there was a note that John Flynn said there's a property owner that hasn't consented. I don't know where it is now, I'll have to find it. I saw it in the last couple of days as I was
Okay,
working
well.
on this.
All right.
Nicole, could you contact Tara Depew and ask her, what is the step that Terry, for example, would take if one landowner absolutely refuses to sign or check either box?
Yeah, 'cause she refused the first one. I went to every door, and even Tim and his wife signed the first one. And everything was good. Everything was good until Tim decided not to purchase culvert. He could purchase culvert with all the rest of it, and it wouldn't cost as much, but he didn't wanna do that. So they went ahead and went through with it anyway, and then did like I said, they put the culverts in, they brought the first lift in, they started grading. Well, one of the grade hands decided that being Tim didn't get culvert, he was gonna grade the ditch, which took out Tim's driveways. And that's when the feud started. So then he brought a petition down, and then that's when Bob told me, he says, well, we ain't gonna do the road anymore. So I come down and was talking to Horn about it, Jim Horn, whatever.
Tony,
And I must have said something he didn't like, because he got mad and said, well, we ain't gonna touch it anymore. I said, okay. And that's where it was at.
And again, going back to what Terry just talked about, at that time, was looking for due process. I don't come home and be told that my property has mysteriously and magically changed from my private property to county road without a process to make that happen. And that didn't happen. The petition never did get moved forward. The petition was changed from when my wife and I signed it.
It was never signed. I never signed that.
It started out to be a petition for county to maintain the road
Maintain and plow it in the winter and
and
maintain
maintain
it
it in the summer.
in the summer. That's all we asked for.
And
And
then,
it was all approved.
then the county commission went through the process of saying it's county road, which is the difference. Anyway, I'll look forward to seeing what you guys decide. Thank you.
I just wanted to make a statement here, I guess. So, we have this chain of deeds, and I've already asked this before. We have this chain of deeds where, we can go all the way back to 1932, and this entire section was purchased, section 1, of the North Range East was purchased. Then we could follow that deed of that specific property, the property that the BLM now owns, where the White Horse Road Trailhead is. Granted, BLM owns even more than just that piece, but I'm talking about this specific piece of property. So, how is it that federally owned public property can deny the owners of that property access if you follow those deeds? And I guess to me, it's just difficult to wrap my head around that you have a deed, or you have a chain of deeds with this 60-foot access that will be open to the heir successors and assigns from the Nagels, the one that they specifically wrote was to Dewey Cooper, so Dewey Cooper sold to Matt Butler. In my mind, okay, that's his successor or heir and or most likely assign, I suppose is what he would be, correct?
It'd be successor.
He would be the successor. Okay, so Mac Butler is the successor of Dewey Cooper, who Dewey Cooper had this easement from Nagels, and so then Mac Butler sold to the Conservation Fund. So does that not now transfer from Mac Butler to the Conservation Fund? The Conservation Fund sold to the United States of America. That's all of us. Do we not all now have access? I guess that's, to me, it seems basic. I know it's not that basic. I know that there are ways, but just to dumb it down, it's owned by the federal government. So if you are a living, breathing American citizen, I think you should have access to those public lands, which are all of ours. It's not really a question, it's just a statement.
Did you go
No,
to law
it's-
school?
I did not.
You should have. You should have. I
And
think
also
that's
because
well
that
put.
White Horse Trail is beautiful, and I encourage everyone to get out there and use it. You know, you can go for miles and miles, so.
Oh, it's one of the issues that I have, that I think it's worth researching on this. Trying to get it done the short way with
Right.
Nagel, but it's possible.
And I'm not questioning the process, I'm just throwing this out there that it seems so simple.
Well, and sometimes things that seem simple actually are simple.
There's kind of a strain of case law that says that you can't change the nature of it beyond the expectation of the original grantor. So let's say you do an easement for a family to cross your land to some of their land back there, and it's a family of 4 or whatever it is. They go back there and basically build a town where they develop 100 lots, and so now it's 100 families, or maybe it's businesses, so it's 100 businesses. There's a legal, there are cases out there where they say you've exceeded by many times what their expected scope of that easement was, and you've gone beyond what the permission they've given you. So,
But I don't see that here. There's nothing limiting.
It's written as a non-exclusive easement,
Right,
is how I read it. And
right,
again, I'm not
right,
an attorney, I don't play one on
non-exclusive,
TV,
yeah.
to me, it just seems very
No,
basic,
nobody signed my attorney.
right?
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Unfortunately.
what, if I were arguing the other side, I would say granting that to a couple of guys for a ranch is not the same as granting it to all of the United States of America or any thousands of number of people that might come there. But again, over the passage of time, I don't think that that's a winning argument, given,
Right, because that road has been used for many, many years by many people.
and the whole idea clearly was to develop that property. That from the very beginning, it was that there would be more people on that road as they purchased properties, et cetera, so. I think, no, I'm not saying it's a winning argument, I'm saying that is one of the arguments that requires a little more careful research, but I'm trying to get that done with a just persuasive discussion with the Nagels as to the fact that there's no utility in resisting it.
I must be getting too old because all the people I have for witnesses about it used to be graded by the county are all dead. So I can't bring them in here to testify.
Would Bob?
And I'm not far from it either, I guess. I got a birthday next month and it'll be the big 7-0.
Happy birthday.
Well, happy birthday, that's great.
Thank you. Joyce and I will be married 51 years this year.
Also, congratulations, that's awesome.
Very good.
So what I'm kind of hearing is, there's kind of a clock ticking. Terry, you have your advice, your suggestion to move forward. And talking with Nagels, it might be a good idea to get that done before Terry is able to complete his.
Yeah, I'll just wait to hear from you guys what you want me to do, what's the best route to do, and then we'll go from there. But at least now, I can, when the landowners stop me on the road when I'm leaving, I can give them an idea. Now, hang on, we did gain some ground yesterday.
Yeah, you can, and if you want to just have a petition and have people sign it as you go, you can do that. However, you know the neighborhood better, you decide how you want to do that.
Who's gonna draw the petition up so that
There
It
should be
can't be
a
withdrawn.
form up
There's-
in
there's a form
my
one,
office
yep.
for a petition for a county.